Well, thank you very much for everybody to joining our third online side event hosted by Aston University Pediatrics Department of Oxford and 𝗔𝗂𝗽𝗍. This session, our main presenter is Mr. Miyahara from World Bank. He's one of the 25 executive directors representing Japan, which is the second largest shareholder in the World Bank. Mr. Miyahara, could you elaborate yourself to the audience, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fusa, and I'm glad to have this opportunity to have a dialogue with you on the very important topic of digital development of African countries. And my name is Takashi Miyahara, and I belong to the Japanese government, and now I am sent by the government to represent it at the board of the World Bank Group, and I've been in this position since January last year. And before that, I spent most of the years, my official years, at the Ministry of Finance of Japan. But in between, I have had two opportunities to get seconded from the government and to work for the World Bank as a staff member. And then, so I'm happy to be here as representing the entire Japanese government and Japan at the World Bank. So if I may start my initial remarks, I'm happy to talk about the digitalization of African economy and how the World Bank Group, as well as the Japanese government, have been contributing to the critically important agenda. And one caveat before I start my remarks, what I'm going to talk about the World Bank Group policy and activities on this agenda, it will be based on my understanding about the focus of the World Bank Group to assistance to Africa on the issues. And I will not be representing officially the World Bank Group management or staff. So I would appreciate the audience's understanding of that point. And okay, so let's start. Well, as many of you are aware, the COVID pandemic has rapidly accelerated the uptake of digital products and services in developing countries. With the World Bank support, the developing countries have used digital platforms and services to help respond to the health, social, and economic impacts of COVID-19, meaning, to address them. However, the pandemic has also demonstrated the significant gaps in digital access that affect developing countries, especially in the African continent. Evidence collected by the bank showed that even though mobile internet availability has increased in recent years, Africa's internet infrastructure availability still lacks that of other regions. Well, the highlight of the importance of digital technologies, which has been made by the COVID pandemic, is well known in Japan and in other countries as well. So to cite a few numbers, globally, more than 43% of the population in developing countries is still not using the internet. And then this figure is even higher for the least developing countries, including many in sub-Saharan Africa. The disparities between the regions are enormous. Less than 15% of the population in Africa has broadband internet access. compared to 88 of North America and then 84 for the Europe and Central Asia. What is important here, as assessed and identified the World Bank Group, is the first, the broadband access in the developing countries, and the data infrastructure to enable the use of data in the broadband access environments. And then thirdly, the cost, to promote the wider use of the broadband access by the people in the developing countries, especially in Africa. The cost should become an affordable ones for rather poor people living in those countries. Another aspects of our World Bank Group, attention and focus is to address both the coverage gaps and the usage gaps. Coverage gaps, means, in a word, the quantity of the digital infrastructure and how many people have access to those the infrastructure, and then the gap of in the usage is literally means that the people should be able to use the broadband internet access for to leveling their living standard up and reducing poverty. And for that purpose, they need to have rather a high quality the services available in the cyber wars, and need to have the local content and productive digital services, and then digital skill development of the people are also necessary for that purpose. Now, African leaders have made it clear that they put the digital development at the priority of their collective development agenda. For instance, at the African Caucus during the World Bank Spring meetings in 2022, meaning 5 months before, they made it clear that they have a strong, African countries have strong demand for World Bank Group support in the area of digitalization. And their focus is on leveraging digital technologies for accelerating economic growth and then creating new jobs. Another instance should include the car call to action issued in July 2022, meaning just 2 months ago, where the heads of the 24 African leaders issued a joint declaration that includes a decision to intensify efforts to accelerate the development of the digital economy and aim for universal access to broadband connectivity by 2030. Achieving this ambitious goal will require increased investment in broadband connectivity and data infrastructure, which should come hand in hand with the policy reforms that enhances competition to improve digital services access and its quality and affordability. The World Bank Group is fully committed to supporting African countries in this important development agenda, using its knowledge advisory services, the financial instruments, convening power, and partnership. So what have been the World Bank Group doing on this agenda in recent years? The World Bank Group operates under the so-called IDA, in the IDA 19th replenishment period, in support of the initiatives consisting of 29 African countries, 41 projects with total amount of $5.9 billion worth of financial assistance. By the way, IDA is an arm of the World Bank Group to extend a very concessional financial support to low-income countries, many of which are located in sub-Saharan Africa. Also, the private sector arm of the World Bank Group, the IFC, International Financial Corporation, it has a portfolio, includes 84 active projects in supporting Africa's digital economy. And also the insurance arm of the bank group, the MIGA, has also been active in this area with operations in, for instance, Sierra Leone, Mali, and Ethiopia, among other countries. So to achieve universal, affordable, and good quality access to broadband connectivity, African countries will need to connect to 1 billion new unique users by 2030s, according to a certain assessment. It is unquestionable that a very significant infrastructure undertaking is needed to roll out and maintain broadband network to support the additional connection bases and associated traffic. And also the World Bank has emphasized the importance of facilitating increased usage of internet services. And what's important here is to develop improved public digital platforms across all African countries. In respect of these objectives, all African citizens need to be able to prove their identity digitally as a first step to use the digitalized services efficiently. Digital identity, and at least 50% of them needs to be able to use regularly the internet access to the services of government or commercial services. For that purpose, the basic and advanced digital skills training may be needed for the people and the community as well. And the World Bank Group has been working on that as well. Going forward, and during the period of IDA 20th replenishment, which means the years of 2022, 3, and 4, the World Bank Group, leveraging the IDA resources, will prioritize interventions in 3 key areas, which are: 1, closing the broadband infrastructure coverage gap; 2, the investment in safe digital stacks and data infrastructure; and 3, facilitating increased use and enhanced benefits of digital services. As for the safe digital stacks for service delivery, digital ID, trusted and secure data sharing, and digital payment systems are needed. And There will also be need for investing in data centers and in cloud services to scale to develop the necessary data infrastructure, physical cross-border integration of networks, and regulatory harmonization. Indeed, the strength of the World Bank Group assistance lies with the cross-border and regional works. In sub-Saharan Africa, not a few countries may be too small to do all the digital development activities on its own. Rather than that, the working together in the region wise may benefit the benefit scale of benefits, and this help expedite the digital development. And then the World Bank Group has been working very intensively for the regional activities. And so here I'd like to raise another critically important point, which is that the World Bank Group is committed to supporting African countries in strengthening trust and resilience in the digital economy by developing data protection and cybersecurity as a critical element of digitalization. As highlighted in the World Bank World Development Report 2021, appropriate government regulations are critical for promoting trust and security in the digital economy, and thus make citizens and business more willing to adopt digital solutions. To that end, the World Bank Group will support countries in strengthening their legal framework for data protection and adopt regulations that protect data users from various potential abuses, including privacy protection for personal and non-personal data. Strengthening cybersecurity will be essential. It will require a broad efforts to develop institutions, systems, and human capacity. In practice, it will mean undertaking diagnostic analysis of cybersecurity capabilities, establishing cybersecurity and so on, to build cybersecurity into all aspects of decision-making, and creating associated institutions, for instance, data governance entities, data protection authorities, and cybersecurity agencies. To promote the usage and increase the benefits of digital services, the focus will be on facilitating high volume, high impact productive use of cases, strengthening local IT industries, addressing gaps in digital skills. And here, the World Bank Group, together with the African Union, have also agreed to work toward the establishment of an African-wide payment infrastructure and universal access to digital financial services by 2030. Okay, so that's the outline of what the World Bank Group has done and planning to do for the digital development of African countries, communities, and societies. And now I move on to Japan and what it has been doing together with the World Bank Group, very briefly. And then in 1916, the World Bank Group established the Multi-Donor Trust Fund to address the digital to provide the digital dividends to developing countries. And then Japan served as a founding member of that multi-donor trust fund. And then recently, the bank group established the cybersecurity associated multi-donor trust fund for promoting cybersecurity under the original the MDTF or digital dividends. And then here, the Japan became the founding donor as well. and provided a significant amount of money to work for that. And then the Japanese Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications have been working with the bank group and representing the Japanese government and working with the World Bank Group to put that money for actual projects supported by those MTTF. And then so far, this the trust fund supported the country level work plan for promoting cybersecurity in 12 countries of Africa and 2 regional activities, again, in sub-Saharan regions, including by providing the best practices and the customized solutions in the cybersecurity institutional and the governance frameworks, training curriculum for judicial and legislative staff members of the government on the cybersecurity, and so on. And well, as audience today may be aware, the TICAD8 conference finished the last weekend by issuing the Tunis Declaration, and this declaration made it clear that the African countries and Japan places particular importance of investing in Africa's digital transformation and ICT infrastructure, including data infrastructure, and also supporting the promoting the policies and skill development for digital economies. And then the Japanese businesses are willing to partner with the African counterparts to support the government's initiative as such. And indeed, the Japanese government fully understands that the addressing digital divide and supporting the African countries to have a stronger and resilient digital infrastructure will be key to the sustainable and inclusive development in coming decades. And so the Japan will spare no efforts to help Africa for that reason. And maybe one addition here is that the Quality Infrastructure Initiative. I hope some of you may remember that the Japan took a leadership role in the G20 to formulate the quality infrastructure investment principles in the G20 in 2019. And the principles rather catches all, but at the same time, the contents of the principles may need to evolve in response to the transformation of the economy and the society in countries. And in the very current context, the quality infrastructure should provide the transparency and protection of data and privacy and resilience against cyber attack or the other illegal activities. So so in the context of the QII as well, supporting the digital development agenda for developing countries is at the center of the Japan's development and policy, and the collaboration with the World Bank Group has become all the more important. So okay, I exceeded a lot of minutes now, so I stop here, and I welcome responding to the questions or any comments. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Miyahara, for great presentation. I'm so thrilled that Japan, as the beneficiary of the World Bank after the Second World War, to build bullet train and the Shuto Expressway, is now becoming the founding member for the trust funds. That's quite remarkable. Some questions are already from the audience. From Paul Nicholas Edwards. My question is two parts. The cost of conducting financial transaction is high in developed world. It is even higher in developing world, including Africa. Commissions of more than 10% are not uncommon. How does the speaker, Mr. Miyahara, see the rollout of central bank digital currency improving the efficiency and cost of making payments? The second half of my question is a little more specific. How does the speaker sees platforms such as GWE, which offer powerful value proposition, contributing to increased efficiency? So
okay,
yeah, fiat currency digitalization, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so shall I answer the questions one by one?
Please.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. So Paul Nicholas, thank you very much for the very important questions. I'll try my best to give any meaningful answer to you. As for the cost of financial transactions, yes, that has been and the issues that requires the solutions, by the World Bank Group and other developing partners for many years now, and because the for instance the remittance has been an important part of the financial underpinning of the people in the developing countries, and then high cost would be a big issue there. And you touched upon the central bank digital currency. Yes, notionally or conceptually, the central bank digital currency could have a potential to reduce the financial transaction cost. And but that is one element of bright parts of the CBDC designing, and then the policymakers may have to be very careful to the sort of the risk or potential negative side of the currencies as well. Because if it operates, it is established and it operates as literally a currency, then it would be the very basic fundamental infra of economic activities and the financial transactions. So the CBDC, any CBDC should be designed and be operated or put to use in a very robust and resilient way to deter the illegal financial transactions, or including money laundering and terrorist financing, and also the authorities should very carefully assess the potential impact of introducing the CBDC to the stability of the monetary policy stability or effectiveness of the monetary policy. And so there are a lot of things to do before deciding and creating the central bank digital currency in any country. So as for your reference, you might be aware, but the G7 finance ministers and central bank governors issued very important the recommendations on the central bank digital currencies in October last year, 2021. So every the policymaker and authorities of developing countries should take a look at the principles to design and create the own country CBDC in a way that actually supports the economic activities or financial transactions of the country, and to raise the to increase the financial inclusion of the poor people by using the retail CBDC. And I'm sorry, Fusa-san, what was the second question? Sorry.
Second question was
value proposition or something.
Yes, how does the speaker sees platforms such as 𝗔𝗂𝗪, which offer powerful value propositions, contributing to increased efficiency?
Okay. I'm not sure I'm well prepared to answer the questions, but yes, there will be the reliable and trustworthy the platform for the digital economic activities to work as designed and anticipated. And then there, if I may touch upon the value propositions to be there, that's transparency, accountability, and protection of privacy, because our common value proposition is to support maintaining the free, fair, and transparent economic and financial activities, right? And then the platform for digital economic activities and transactions should serve those the value propositions. Otherwise, the digitalization would have a serious side effect of affecting the very the basic or the basic value propositions and economic and financial infrastructure that has been supporting our growth and prosperity so far. So is the digital economy and then the digital financial activities would have a huge potential for helping the poor and developing countries and people, but it is based on an assumption that all the policies and institutions, rules, whatever are designed to keep protecting the principles of transparency, accountability, and the privacy and whatever. So I hope I made some answers to the important question.
So another question from Hussein Al-Rawi, who is driving, so therefore that he want to speak his question. Hussein,
yes.
go ahead.
Thank you very much, Koji. Mr. Miyahara, thank you very much for this impressive presentation. I just have a question and would like to know your input and advice. I mean, since you were just touching on the CBDC and the digital strategies of many countries. For example, in Bahrain, they have placed a digital strategy to digitalize the whole government and the economy. And while CBDC is the priority and most of the the government officials are aware of that, and they know that that's the future, that's where they need to go. But I just feel that there is sort of difficulty, or to say, no, that's a big step, let's wait and see what the other country will do first. We don't want to be the first. When really, I mean, it is something that is not really very complicated when it's adapted and tried and seen. We've seen the digital currency of that is going on. So I just would like to know, I mean, what would like your message be to, like, the officials of the central bank to understand about how
excuse me, Mr. Al-Alawi, your voice sort of fainted, and then I'm difficult to.
Sorry, I apologize because I'm in the car. I don't know until when did you hear me, but
yes,
what I was trying to say is I would like to know, like, what could your message be to the central banks, and how like they can look at seriously adapting and going towards the CBDC without having to say, no, let's wait and see what the others have to do, or this other country.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Al-Alawi, for another very important question. And officially, I'm not in a position to talk about the CBDC itself, as a member of the World Bank Group board. But please take it my personal comments. And personally, I think it would be very wise for the policymakers or top officials of the central bank to make a thorough study of potential designing of its own central bank digital currency, paying the due attention and consideration of every aspect of importance. And in that regard, taking time and learning from what other central banks are doing or will be doing for designing the central bank digital currency would be an important and rewarding step for them to decide and create its own CBDC. And then actually, indeed, there should be lots of aspects or elements for consideration, very careful consideration. It's a once again, the digital currency may have a big potential of reducing cost or facilitating transactions and payments. But at the same time, there would be the lots of potential negative the impacts that the digital currency could pose to the entire economy of the country and macroeconomic policy making and management of the country. So I'm sorry, I'm only speaking very general things, but to take a sufficient time for study, the research, and own designing, and pay due attention to what other central banks are doing would be a kind of advice of my own as just one of the government official of Japan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. 𝗶𝗵 𝗪𝗀, can you also talk about your question to Mr. Miyahara directly? Can you unmute and ask the question, or do you want?
Yes, Koji, thank you very much. Miyahara-san, thank you very much for your previous comprehensive answers to my questions. In your presentation, you talked about the importance of cybersecurity related, obviously, to the build out of infrastructure. With the advent of quantum computers over the next 5 years, cybersecurity is becoming an increasingly serious problem. I believe that the cost of fraud globally is already some $7 trillion annually and expected to rise to more than 10. Could you be a little more specific in terms of filling out your comments, your presentation, about how you are thinking of tackling the issue of cybersecurity?
Okay, thank you for another question. And honestly, I'm not prepared to give the numbers or the actual assessment by the World Bank Group on in response to your question. I regret to say this, but yes, indeed, the cybersecurity has been increasingly an important place in the World Bank Group. The policy and operations of the digital development and management and stuff. I believe the places all the needed attention and how to ensure the cybersecurity in the digital development of our client countries. So yes, I'll share your questions with the staff members concerned, and would like to come back to you with the numbers of the cybersecurity risks as it's being assessed by the World Bank Group, if possible.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. No, that's. I mean, I think it's sufficient to understand that the World Bank places a priority on this issue. I wasn't necessarily asking for a dollar number, but you're obviously taking it very seriously, which is very encouraging. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you.
Mr. Edwards, if I may add, and Mr. Miyahara, if I may add, as a professor of Cybersecurity Innovation Center of Aston University, there was a session which we discussed about which is more important between hardware and software. But the answer to that question was actually more interesting. That is not only hardware and software, because now most of the hardware has the software element anyway. So hardware is important, software is important, but also the operation is also important. If you have a great hardware and great software, if the people who are operating, it doesn't really understand the importance of security or the comprehensive security, there has been a lot of problem. For example, some of the ex-Soviet Union countries, at least 2 countries, which are now close to the Western world, has been hacked. One country, which is very famous, digitalized country, has been hacked 4 times, presumably by Russians. Russians denied, but they have been suing for 𝗔𝗂𝗪𝗀 having a false hardware. But it's not just hardware, but it has to be a combination. And the another country has been hacked by attacked recently, about 2 weeks ago, and then the government website has been down for 2 weeks. So you need to, when you do the digitalization, you really need to understand all the important elements of hardware, software, and operation. And that is something that we can explore with World Bank further.
Okay, thank you for a great comment, Mr. Fusa, and I cannot agree more on that. Not only for the digital development or digital payment system, everything, every aspect of the development assistance requires the policies and institutions and infrastructure and the skills of the people operating those the infrastructure or implementing the policies, whatever. So then the World Bank Group has in the long history of its policy and operations, the World Bank Group consistently puts the highest importance of providing the skills training or capacity building of government officials, or maybe even for business people in some cases of the developing countries. And then looking forward, such the skills development regarding cybersecurity there will be a critically important part of the World Bank Group policy and operations in assisting the developed countries, in my view. And maybe again, in my view, the Japanese government as well as the corporate sector has been very instrumental in providing those kind of skills development assistance to the people in developing countries. So the digital service providers like your company may want to engage with such a training phase of the digitalization. Not only providing the software and other infrastructure, but also the skills development support could be done by the Japanese, advanced Japanese companies in the digital fields, like JBE. My sincere hope.
Thank you very much. Mr. 𝗪𝗲, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Miyahara, for your informative presentation. And I respect the role of the World Bank and Japanese government supporting the development of African countries or developing countries for internet access or broadband access, reducing poverty. At the same time, your classification between developed country and developing countries are, of course, understandable. At the same time, if we classify countries between democratic countries and authoritarian countries, most of the developing countries belong to authoritarian countries, not democratic countries, so-called. Of course, partly due to the developing stage. So if you support those developing countries' governments, they may use the cyber, internet or broadband or hardware, software technologies to increase surveillance of their people, or they may be hacker themselves instead of being hacked. And the population of those developed countries are ballooning, while the population in the developed countries or Western countries do not increase. So I'm just wondering, is there any condition for the when World Bank provides support to the developing countries? Is there any condition of the government system or the degree of democratic system or legal framework? You said that the World Bank will support the legal framework or private protection. Is this just an expectation, or is it a kind of condition when you support them? It's a bit broad question, but I'm interested in this aspect.
Thank you, another Fusa-san, for extremely complicated and difficult question to answer. But again, in my personal view, I'll try my best to respond. First of all, the World Bank is being instructed not to intervene, political matters in our charter. Constitution of the World Bank. And so, the bank does not classify the recipient into two groups, for instance, like democratic countries and authoritarian countries. And so if there is a request of assistance from even from a country that you categorize in authoritarian, then the bank staff would sit at the table of initial discussion And at the same time, the bank group has been established lots of the standards or policy in terms of policy, as well as the operational procedure or whatever. And also the bank puts the ultimate goal of its activities, such as reducing its extreme poverty and the promoting the shared prosperity. So those those in a sense value propositions, current value propositions of the World Bank should be put at the center of such discussion with the authorities and the bank management and the staff. And then I honestly I do not have all such principles and operating the principles procedures at hand now, but I believe ensuring that for instance data transparency or ensuring the human rights protection are in such principles. For instance, the human rights protection is certainly in the social and part of the environmental and social standards of both the World Bank and IFC. And so in the designing phase of any project, the staff should check the request of the authorities against those the principles and the criteria or whatever associated with such basic value propositions of the bank group. So through such a process, I hope the extreme case, as you just mentioned, may be excluded from the pool of potential assistance by the World Bank Group. So if I'm speaking from my imagination, but if authority of a certain country requests an assistance for creating the monitoring system to check the citizens conduct, everyday conduct, then that is clearly a main purpose of the project. Then I hope such a case will not be taken up for the World Bank Group project. But once again, this is I used my own imagination in this statement. So for instance, legally, I would have to check very carefully all the rules and regulations of the World Bank Group of policy and operations. But that's, at least I personally believe that's the way the World Bank Group operates and advise recipient countries. My belief. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. It's encouraging.
Mr. Miyahara, the last question is from me. You mentioned that there's 84 digital projects. Is there any central team which is conducting digital project? You mentioned there's an infrastructure team. Could you elaborate to the audience who are the people who are making effort to making a digitalization project for the World Bank for developing countries?
By who?
Yeah, but you mentioned before our session, you mentioned about there's a team called Digital Infrastructure Team.
Okay.
For the audience sake, I think it is beneficial for the people to understand, because World Bank has a huge organization and the different country team and specialist team.
Okay. Well, I would refrain from mentioning the individual name of people.
No. Yeah.
But we have first of all, we have a big chunk of management and staff working for infrastructure affairs, and led by the vice president on infrastructure. And then under his leadership, they have several the units, and one of them is clearly assigned to support, the digital development. And they deal with, for instance, the supporting to establish the digital identity, which I briefly mentioned in my initial remarks, and also the supporting the the development of hardware and the software for digital development, and everything about digital. And also, because digitalization has now become a cross-cutting theme throughout the various or almost all types of World Bank Group support, maybe including the financial sector support, or for the financial inclusions, or I'm not sure whether it's now or but it's a matter of future, but the digital technology should be put to use for enhancing the or strengthening the delivering health services. So the vice president unit or global health unit may want to do more on digitalization of health service delivery. So so on top of the infrastructure unit and digital development unit in there, there are several more, maybe smaller units across the World Bank Group, which are working on some form of digitalization of their own thematic fields.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, totally makes sense. And I'm glad that the World Bank is structured, that digital team is inside of the infrastructure, because it is an infrastructure. Thank you very much for your great presentation, and thank you for the audience. And I think that we have taken you a lot of your time. So thank you very much for Mr. Miyahara. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And my last words, maybe, well, this is especially for a Japanese audience today. So please don't hesitate to come and contact me if you have further questions or comments, or even any proposals of work. And Japan has been kind of renowned as a leading country in technology. And for Japan to stay in the position, the Japanese the companies or government agencies or experts and Japan as a whole, should gear the efforts for digital development up more, and then the collaboration of Japan with the World Bank Group should keep playing a key role in enhancing, the Japan's own, digital development, or the Japan's, bilateral assistance to the developing countries for that theme. Myself and my staff at the Executive Director's Office of Japan are always welcome to work with anyone, for that goal. So thank you very much, Mr. Fusa, this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.